The night was heavy with silence. Snow fell slowly from the dark sky, covering the tall trees and the frozen ground. In the middle of the forest, an alien mother and her young daughter walked quickly, their breath rising like white smoke in the cold air. The mother's eyes moved left and right, sharp and alert. She knew they were being hunted. Her daughter clung tightly to her hand, small feet struggling in the deep snow. The child's voice trembled as she whispered, "Mother, are they still following us?" The mother forced a smile, though fear burned inside her. "Stay close, my heart. Do not let go. I will protect you." Suddenly, the sound of breaking branches echoed through the night. From the shadows, dark figures appeared, raiders. Their faces were cruel, their eyes filled with greed and hatred. They carried bows, arrows already drawn, and moved like wolves closing in on prey. The mother pushed her daughter behind her. She stood tall, though her hands shook. Her body was fragile, but her heart was strong. She knew what she had to do. A sharp whistle cut through the air, and the first volley of arrows flew toward them. The mother did not hesitate. She threw herself in front of her daughter, spreading her arms wide, making her body a shield. The arrows struck her, piercing armor and flesh. Pain tore through her, but she did not fall. The child screamed, clutching her mother's waist, tears running down her cheeks. "Mother, no!" The mother gasped, blood staining the snow, but her voice was firm. "Run behind me, stay low, do not cry. You must live." The raiders laughed cruelly, circling them. One of them stepped forward and raised his bow again, aiming at the child. The mother screamed in desperation, "Help us! Please, someone, help!" Her cry echoed through the forest. For a moment, only the wind answered. The raiders pulled their bows again, confident the end had come. Then from the shadows a new sound rose, the heavy crunch of boots in snow. The raiders turned their heads, confused. A figure walked toward them, tall and strong, wrapped in rough human clothing. His face was scarred, his eyes cold as steel. A human. He carried no bow, no shining weapon, only a simple axe in his hand. But his presence was powerful. The raiders hesitated, whispering to one another. They had heard stories of humans, stories of their impossible strength and endless courage. The human stopped between the mother and the raiders. He looked down at the bleeding woman, then at the terrified child. His jaw tightened. Slowly he raised his axe. "If you want them," he said in a deep voice, "you will have to pass through me." The raiders shouted in anger and loosed another volley of arrows. The human moved with speed that shocked them. He caught one arrow with the shaft of his axe and turned aside, dodging the others. In a heartbeat, he charged forward, snow flying beneath his boots. The first raider tried to strike, but the human swung his axe and cut the bow in two. The raider stumbled back in fear. Another enemy rushed in with a dagger, but the human slammed his shoulder into him, throwing him to the ground. The mother watched with wide, stunned eyes. She could hardly believe what she was seeing. Her body was weak, her blood warm against the snow, but hope returned to her heart. Her child whispered, "Mother, he's saving us." But the battle was not over. More raiders appeared from the trees, their torches burning bright. The human stood firm, his breath rising like steam in the cold. He looked back at the mother and child only once. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. The mother nodded weakly, pulling her daughter close. The raiders shouted and attacked together, but the human met them without fear. His axe flashed in the firelight, his fists struck with the force of iron. Every movement was sharp, controlled, and filled with rage. One raider screamed as he fell to the snow. Another dropped his bow and ran, fear breaking his courage. Yet still more pressed forward. The child buried her face in her mother's arms, too afraid to watch. The mother, trembling and bleeding, forced herself to stay awake. She could not let this man fight alone. Arrows clattered on the ground. Torches hissed in the snow. The forest shook with the clash of steel and the cries of men. Finally, for a brief moment, silence returned. The human stood in the center of the field, chest rising and falling, axe dripping with blood. Around him, broken weapons and fallen raiders lay scattered. The survivors pulled back into the shadows, glaring with hatred but too afraid to continue. The human lowered his axe and turned back to the mother and child. His face was hard, but his voice was calm. "You are safe, for now." The mother's vision blurred, her strength fading. She tried to speak but could only whisper, "Thank you," before her body collapsed into the snow. The human quickly knelt beside her, his strong hands catching her before she hit the ground. The child cried, clutching her mother's arm, looking up at the human with desperate eyes. The human looked at them both, his expression unreadable. He lifted the mother carefully in his arms, nodding to the child. "Stay close. We must move before they return." And with that, the human carried them deeper into the forest, vanishing into the stormy night, as more shadows gathered behind the trees. The snowstorm grew heavier as the human moved swiftly through the forest, carrying the wounded alien mother in his arms. Her daughter stumbled beside him, clutching his coat with trembling fingers. The mother's skin was pale, blood soaking her side where the arrows had struck. Every breath she took was shallow, every sigh weaker than the last. The child's eyes filled with tears. "Please, save her," she whispered, her voice shaking. The human glanced down, his jaw tight. He was not a man of many words, but the fire in his eyes spoke louder than promises. "She will not die tonight," he said firmly. Behind them, the sound of pursuit rose again. The raiders were not finished. Their angry shouts carried through the trees, and the glow of their torches flickered between the branches. The human stopped for a moment. He gently lowered the mother against the trunk of a tree, then turned to face the child. "Stay with her. Do not move. Do not make a sound." The child nodded quickly, though fear made her lips tremble. The human gripped his axe and disappeared into the snowy darkness. The raiders advanced, confident they would finish their hunt. But the forest was no longer silent. It was alive, filled with a predator they did not understand. The first raider stepped forward, bow drawn. From the shadows, the human burst out with sudden fury. His axe struck like lightning, snapping the bow in half before the raider could even release the string. The man fell back, shocked, his weapon useless. Another raider raised a spear, but the human moved with speed. He caught the spear's shaft, twisted it, and slammed the attacker into the snow. His movements were raw, unrefined, but filled with strength. The others hesitated. Fear began to creep into their eyes. "He is only one man," their leader barked. "Kill him!" But it was not so simple. The human fought like a storm. He did not wait for them to attack. He struck first, his axe cutting through the air, his fists and boots striking with brutal force. Every sound echoed through the forest. The clash of metal, the cry of men, the crack of branches as bodies fell. Hidden behind the tree, the child hugged her mother tightly. She could hear the violence, but she dared not look. She whispered through her tears, "Mother, he is fighting for us. He is not afraid." The mother's weak voice trembled. "Humans, they are not like us. They burn like fire. Even in the darkest night, the battle grew fierce. More raiders poured into the clearing, their torches painting the snow in red and gold. The human was surrounded. Arrows flew, spears lunged, blades clashed. One arrow cut across his arm, leaving a shallow wound. Blood dripped, but his face showed no pain. Another raider tried to strike his back, but the human spun, driving the axe into the attacker's chest. The raiders cried out in shock. They had never seen such relentless will. The leader, taller and stronger than the rest, stepped forward. He wielded a long curved blade and sneered at the human. "You fight well, stranger, but you cannot protect them. Not forever." The human did not answer. He only raised his axe and met the leader head on. Their weapons clashed again and again, sparks flying in the night. The leader pressed forward, his strength brutal, but the human matched him strike for strike. His muscles strained, his breath came heavy, but his eyes burned with determination. At last, the human found an opening. With one fierce swing, he shattered the leader's blade. The raider staggered back, fear flashing across his face. The human's axe stopped just inches from his throat. The other raiders froze, their courage breaking. Without their leader's strength, they felt the weight of defeat. One by one, they turned and vanished into the forest, leaving their fallen behind. Silence returned, broken only by the whistle of the cold wind. The human lowered his axe, chest rising and falling. He turned back toward the tree where the mother and child waited. His boots sank deep into the snow as he walked, leaving a trail of crimson behind him. The child ran to him, her eyes wide with both fear and hope. Did you stop them?" The human wiped the blood from his axe. "For now," he said quietly. The mother tried to rise, but her wounds held her down. She looked up at him with fading eyes. Why help us? We are nothing to you." For a moment, the human said nothing. His gaze drifted toward the dark trees where more dangers surely waited. Then he looked back at her, his expression unreadable. "Because no one else would." With those words, he lifted her again, carrying her gently in his arms. He motioned for the child to follow. The three of them disappeared deeper into the forest, the storm closing around them. But in the shadows, more enemies watched, waiting for their chance to strike. The battle was not over. It had only just begun. The snowstorm howled louder, shaking the trees as if the forest itself wanted to swallow the three travelers. The human pressed forward, his breath heavy but steady. He carried the wounded alien mother in his arms while her little daughter stumbled behind, trying to keep pace. Her small hands gripped the hem of his coat, her eyes wide with fear. The mother's head rested weakly on his shoulder. Her blood warmed the human's clothes, but her voice was faint. "You should leave me. I will only slow you down." The human shook his head firmly. "No, you live. That is not a choice." Behind them, the distant sound of horns cut through the storm. The raiders had regrouped. They were not giving up. Their torches lit the far horizon like glowing eyes in the dark. The child's voice cracked. "They're coming again." The human glanced back, his jaw tightening. "Then we must cross the river." Through the thick snow, the faint sound of rushing water grew louder. Soon they reached the edge of a frozen river, wide and silver beneath the pale moonlight. The ice glistened thin in places, and the water moved swiftly beneath it. The child's face paled. "We can't cross. The ice will break." The human crouched down, setting the mother gently against a boulder. He looked into the little girl's eyes. "Listen to me. If we stay here, we die. If we cross, we may live. Hold my hand and do not let go." The mother tried to protest, her weak voice trembling. "No, it's too dangerous." But the human had already made his decision. He lifted her again, balancing her weight on his strong arms, and stepped onto the ice. It groaned under his boots, cracking faintly. The girl followed close, her eyes shut tight, whispering prayers to the cold sky. Halfway across, the sound of pursuit grew louder. Raiders emerged from the trees, shouting with fury. Their arrows flew, striking the ice, splintering it. The human lowered his head, moving faster, every step a gamble between life and death. A loud crack split the air. The ice beneath them shattered. Freezing water rushed upward. The little girl screamed as her feet slipped. The human reacted instantly. He pushed her forward onto a stable piece of ice and tightened his hold on the mother. His own legs plunged into the freezing water. The river pulled with brutal force, trying to drag him under. The mother gasped weakly, her hands clinging to him. "Let me go. Save my daughter." But the human's eyes blazed with fire. He gritted his teeth, pulling with all his strength. With one arm, he slammed his axe into the ice, using it as an anchor. Slowly, painfully, he hauled himself and the mother back onto the frozen surface. The child crawled toward them, crying, "Please, don't leave me." The human roared, using the last of his strength to push the mother and child forward. His boots found solid ice again, and he forced his body to keep moving. At last, they reached the far side of the river, collapsing onto the snowy bank. Behind them, the raiders tried to follow, but the ice broke faster beneath their weight. One by one, they fell screaming into the freezing water, their torches vanishing beneath the dark current. For the first time, silence returned. The storm's howl was the only sound. The little girl threw her arms around her mother, sobbing with relief. The mother stroked her hair weakly, though her own strength was fading. Her eyes turned toward the human, who sat breathing hard, his hands shaking from the cold. "You saved us." "Again," she whispered. The human only shook his head. "Not yet. They will come again. We must find shelter." They moved deeper into the woods, following the human's lead. The storm grew worse. Winds cutting like knives, snow falling so thick it blinded their sight. The child grew tired, stumbling often, but the human always reached back to steady her. Finally, through the white curtain of snow, a dark opening appeared, a cave hidden among the rocks. The human guided them inside. The air was still cold, but the walls blocked the storm. He lowered the mother onto a bed of dry leaves and searched quickly for firewood. Sparks flew as he struck steel against stone, and soon a small flame grew, painting the cave in warm light. The child held her mother's hand tightly. "Will she be okay?" The human's eyes studied the mother's wounds. He tore a strip of cloth from his own clothes, pressing it against the bleeding. "If she rests, if the bleeding stops, she has a chance." The mother gazed at him with tired eyes. "Why do you keep risking your life for us?" "You don't even know our names." The human looked into the fire, his face unreadable. "I don't need names to know what's right." The cave filled with silence, broken only by the crackle of flames. For the first time since the ambush, the child felt a small spark of safety. She leaned against her mother, her eyes heavy with sleep, but the mother stayed awake, her heart uneasy. She could sense it, the danger was not gone, and she was right. Outside the cave, faint shadows moved against the snow. Voices whispered in a language they could not understand. The raiders were not finished. They had tracked them even here. The human's hand tightened on his axe as he stared toward the cave's mouth, his eyes sharp and ready. The desperate escape had bought them time, but the true battle had only just begun. The cave glowed faintly with the small fire the human had built. Smoke curled upward, slipping out through cracks in the stone ceiling. The warmth spread slowly, but the air still smelled of wet stone and blood. The mother lay on the ground, her body weak, her eyes half closed. The child pressed herself close, refusing to let go of her hand. The human sat near the entrance, his axe across his knees. His body was tired, soaked from the river, but his eyes never closed. Every sound outside, every crack of a branch, every howl of wind kept him alert. The child broke the silence. "Will they find us?" Her small voice trembled in the firelight. The human looked at her. "Yes," he said simply, "but not tonight. Tonight we rest. Tomorrow we fight again." The mother coughed softly, blood touching her lips. "You speak as if war is your only life." The human did not answer. Instead, he stood and walked deeper into the cave, his torch lighting the dark stone walls. The child followed him with her eyes until he vanished into the shadows. The deeper part of the cave twisted strangely. The human moved carefully, torch in one hand, axe in the other. Strange markings lined the stone walls, symbols scratched long ago. Some looked like claws, others like ancient writing. His eyes narrowed. This place was not empty. A sudden rustle echoed ahead. He raised his torch and saw something glimmer, bones scattered across the floor. Not animal bones, larger, older. The cave had seen death before. He returned quietly to the fire. The mother noticed the seriousness in his face. "What did you find?" The human shook his head. "Nothing that helps us." But his grip on the axe tightened. The storm outside raged louder, snow beating against the rocks. Yet underneath the wind, other sounds began to rise. Faint voices. Footsteps crunching in snow. "The raiders," the child gasped. "They're here!" The human moved to the cave mouth, crouching low. Through the blizzard, torchlight flickered. Dark silhouettes moved slowly, searching. The raiders had not given up. He returned to the fire and whispered to the mother, "They will come. Be ready," her eyes filled with fear. "I cannot fight, my body—" "You protect her." He nodded toward the child. "I will do the rest." Minutes passed like hours. The sound of raiders grew closer. The mother held her daughter tight, whispering comfort, though her voice was weak. Then a shadow fell across the cave entrance. A raider's torchlight cut into the darkness. The human rose silently, his axe glinting in the firelight. He waited still as stone. The first raider entered, his bow ready. But before he could even lift it, the human struck. One swift blow, and the man fell without a sound. The child covered her eyes, trembling, but the silence didn't last. More footsteps echoed. The human pulled the fallen raider's body deeper into the cave, hiding it in the shadows. His heart pounded like drums, the mother whispered, "There are too many." The human's eyes burned. Then they will meet too many deaths. The second wave came. 2 raiders entered together, their blades shining. They saw the fire and rushed forward, shouting. The human moved fast, axe flashing in the narrow cave. Steel clashed against stone, sparks flying. The confined space became a trap for them. His blows were heavy, precise, and merciless. The sound of steel striking bone filled the air. When silence returned again, 2 bodies lay at his feet. Blood stained the stone floor, running toward the fire. The mother turned her face away, whispering prayers under her breath. The child peeked with wide, terrified eyes. "He's not like them," she whispered. "He fights for us, but the danger wasn't finished." The raiders outside had heard the clash. Their leader barked orders, his voice cutting through the storm. Soon many footsteps approached at once. The human breathed deeply. He could not hold the cave forever. He turned back to the mother. "We must move deeper inside." "But you said," she began, "this place is no shelter anymore." "It is a trap." With effort, he lifted her again, nodding to the child. Together they moved into the darker tunnels. The firelight flickered behind them, then vanished, leaving only the echo of dripping water and the distant shouts of raiders. The deeper they went, the colder it became. The walls narrowed, twisting like the throat of some great beast. Strange echoes filled the air, whispers or perhaps just the wind. The child clung to her mother's arm. "It feels alive," she whispered. The mother's eyes were heavy, but she nodded faintly. "This cave, it is old. Older than our kind." The human pressed on, torch in one hand, axe in the other. His mind was clear. Survive tonight, fight tomorrow. But deep inside he knew something waited for them in the heart of this cave. Behind them, the raiders' voices grew louder. The storm could not hide them anymore. The hunt had followed them into the darkness, and now in this strange underground world, the true test was about to begin. The cave twisted deeper into the earth. The air grew colder, damp with the smell of stone and old death. The human's torch flickered, throwing long shadows across the jagged walls. Every few steps, strange carvings appeared on the rock, symbols no one alive could understand. The child's small hand clung to his coat, her wide eyes darting left and right. The mother, weak in his arms, whispered softly, "This place, it remembers blood." The human gave no reply. He walked with steady steps, though his eyes studied every mark and bone. He could feel it. This cave was older than the raiders, older than both human and alien. At last he stopped in a narrow chamber. Water dripped from the ceiling into a shallow pool, the sound echoing softly. He laid the mother down on a flat rock and motioned for the child to stay close. He knelt beside her and tore more cloth from his sleeve to bind her wounds. His hands were rough but careful. The mother's eyes fluttered open. In the dim light she studied him. "You fight like a man with nothing left to lose," she said faintly. "But you don't know me. You don't know why they hunt us." The human's voice was steady. "Then tell me." For a long moment, only silence filled the chamber. The child rested her head against her mother's arm, listening with wide, curious eyes. Finally, the mother drew a shaking breath. "My name is Celira. My daughter is Naya. We belong to the Starvale clan." Her voice broke, or what remains of it. The human listened, his face calm, though his eyes sharpened. Celira continued, her words slow, weak, but heavy. "Long ago our clan lived in peace. We were healers, farmers. We carried no weapons. But then the raiders came. They wanted our land, our children, our women. They saw our healing arts as power to steal." Naya whimpered softly, hiding her face against her mother's side. Celira stroked her hair gently, then looked back at the human. "We tried to run. Then he died, my husband. He fought them so we could escape. I never saw him again. Since then, Naya and I have been hunted like animals." Her eyes filled with tears, though she tried to hide them. "I thought I could protect her. But arrows cut me down. My body is broken, and yet she still clings to me." The human was silent for a moment, his gaze lowered to the flames of the torch. Then he said softly, "She clings to hope. As all children do." The child lifted her head, her small voice trembling. "Mother says our blood is cursed. That's why they hate us." The human looked at Celira sharply. "Cursed?" Celira sighed. "Not cursed but rare. My people can sense the wounds of others. We can share pain, draw it into ourselves, and heal. It is a gift, but to others it is a weapon to control. That is why they will never stop chasing us. They want Naya. They want her to grow into her gift." The human's jaw tightened. He stared at the little girl who now clung to her mother with wide, fearful eyes. Celira's voice broke. "I would rather die than see her in their hands. That is why I threw myself in front of those arrows. Not for me, for her." The chamber fell quiet again. Only the drip of water echoed. The human finally spoke. "You are hunted for your gift. Your daughter will be hunted more. Then there is no choice. I will take her where they cannot follow." Celira's weak hand clutched his arm, surprising him with its strength. "No, do not speak as if I will not walk beside her. She is my life." Their eyes met, hers filled with desperation, his with unshaken resolve. At that moment, the sound of movement echoed through the cave. The human stood quickly, axe ready. Shadows flickered at the far tunnel. The raiders were coming again. Celira's breath quickened, but she pulled her daughter close and whispered something in her ear. The child nodded, tears in her eyes. "What did you tell her?" the human asked. Celira's lips curved into a faint smile, though pain filled her face. "I told her that even in the darkest night, humans carry fire in their hearts. She must trust that fire." The human did not answer. He only tightened his grip on the axe. Torches appeared in the distance, voices shouting. The cave walls shook with the approach of many feet. The child pressed against her mother. The mother, though weak, raised her chin, whispering fiercely, "If they come, I will not run again. This time I will fight, even with my last breath." The human glanced at her, this fragile woman broken by arrows still willing to rise for her child. A spark of respect flickered in his cold eyes. The raiders were close now, their shadows dancing on the walls. The human stepped forward, axe gleaming in the torchlight. "Then stay behind me," he said. "Your past is full of pain, but your future, your daughter's future, will be written with blood tonight." The cave filled with the roar of voices, the thunder of approaching enemies. The mother held her daughter tight, whispering prayers. The human raised his axe high, ready for the storm. And so deep within the ancient cave, the next chapter of their fight began. The cave walls shook with the thunder of many footsteps. Torches blazed in the dark tunnel, their light crawling closer and closer. The raiders were returning in force. Their voices echoed like growls, filling the stone halls with the promise of blood. The human stood at the mouth of the chamber, axe gripped tight, his shadow stretching long behind him. His face was calm, but his heart was steel. He had no illusions. This fight would be worse than before. Behind him, Celira clutched her daughter close. She whispered, "Naya, do not look. Only listen. If I tell you to run, you run." "Do you hear me?" Naya's voice shook. "But I don't want to leave you." The mother pressed her forehead against the child's. "Then pray we both walk out together." The first raiders burst into the chamber with a shout, blades raised. The human met them head-on, his axe flashing. The clash of steel rang against the walls, sparks flying with every strike. The narrow space turned into chaos, grunts, screams, and the sharp smell of blood. But more kept coming. For every raider that fell, 2 more pushed through the tunnel. The human's body moved like iron, but even iron bends under endless weight. His arm bled from a deep cut. His breath came heavy. Still, he refused to step back. Celira, though weak, placed herself between the child and the fight. Her hands trembled, but her eyes blazed with fire. "You will not take her," she whispered fiercely. Then, just when it seemed the raiders would overwhelm them, a new sound filled the chamber. A horn, low, deep, and ancient. It echoed through the stone like thunder from the mountain itself. The raiders froze, their eyes wide. "No, not them," one hissed. From the opposite tunnel, more figures appeared, but these were not raiders. They wore furs and bone armor, their weapons carved from steel and claw. Their skin carried strange markings, their eyes burning with the fury of hunters. It was another tribe, enemies of the raiders. Their leader stepped forward, a towering alien warrior with long braids and a scar across his jaw. He pointed his spear toward the raiders. "You dare spill blood in our sacred caves?" His voice was like thunder. "You will pay with your lives." Chaos erupted. The chamber exploded into battle. Raiders against the tribe, screams echoing off the walls. Torches fell, flames spreading across the stone floor. Steel clashed with bone, arrows whistled through the air, and the sound of war filled the cave. The human did not hesitate. He turned his fury on the raiders, his axe striking with brutal force. He fought shoulder to shoulder with the new tribe, though they eyed him with suspicion even as he killed their enemies. Celira's eyes widened in disbelief. "The Stonefang tribe," she whispered. "I thought they vanished." The child clung tighter. "Are they friends?" Her mother's face was grim. "Friends? No, but tonight they hate the raiders more than us." In the chaos, the raider leader appeared again, his face twisted with rage. He cut through enemies, his curved blade dripping with blood. His eyes locked on Celira and Naya hiding at the back of the chamber. He roared and charged, cutting down anyone in his path. The human saw him. He forced his way through the battle, his body slamming raiders aside. The leader raised his blade toward Celira. Clang! The human's axe met it just in time. Sparks flew as steel struck steel. Their eyes locked, hate against fire. "You again." The leader snarled. "I will carve your heart out." The human's voice was calm but heavy with rage. "Try." They clashed with brutal force. Each strike shook the chamber, echoing like thunder. The raiders and the tribe fought around them, but this duel was its own storm. Meanwhile, the Stonefang leader caught sight of Celira and Naya. His sharp eyes narrowed. "He protects them," he muttered. "Why?" One of his warriors spat. Maybe they are his captives. Or maybe he's a fool. The leader raised his hand. Do not touch them, not yet. I want to see why this human bleeds for them. The duel raged on. The raider leader was skilled, his curved blade fast and deadly. But the human fought with pure will, every strike of his axe filled with fury. Finally, with a roar, the human broke through the guard. His axe struck the raider's chest, sending him crashing to the stone floor. Blood spread across the rock. The raider leader gasped, glaring up at him. This is not over. His eyes darkened and his breath stilled. The cave went silent for a heartbeat. Then, with their leader fallen, the raiders' courage broke. They fled into the tunnels, chased by the Stone Fang warriors. Only the human, Celira, Naya, and the new tribe remained in the chamber, the firelight flickering on blood-stained walls. The Stone Fang leader stepped forward, his spear gleaming. He looked at the human with cold eyes. You fight well, stranger, but why do you bleed for them? They are not of your kind. The human said nothing. He only placed himself between the mother and child, axe still ready. The leader studied him, then gave a slow, dangerous smile. Interesting. Perhaps you are not enemy. Yet, but your path and ours are not finished. The tension thickened. Celira's heart pounded. The child clutched her mother tighter, whispering, Are they going to hurt us? The answer lay in the human's silence. His body still like stone, his axe shining in the firelight, and deep within the storm-scarred cave. The clash of tribes had only just begun. The fire in the cave had burned low, its light flickering weakly across blood-stained stone. The storm outside had finally begun to fade, but inside another storm brewed. The human stood tall, his axe heavy in his hand as the Stone Fang warriors circled closer. Their leader's sharp eyes studied him in silence. Celira lay weak but alive against the wall, her daughter Naya pressed tightly at her side. The girl's small eyes never left the human. She whispered to her mother, He won't let them hurt us. The Stone Fang leader stepped forward, his spear tip glinting in the dim light. Human, he said in a deep growl. You fought against the raiders, and for that we do not strike you now. But we must know, why protect these two? They are not your blood. Why risk your life again and again? The chamber grew silent. All eyes turned toward him. The human raised his head, his voice calm but steady. Because when no one else stands, I will. Because their blood is hunted and their cries went unanswered. I could not ignore them. The Stone Fang leader tilted his head, surprised by the words. His warriors murmured among themselves. Some nodded with respect, others sneered with distrust. Celira forced herself to sit up, her voice trembling. He has saved us not once but many times. Without him we would be ash in the snow. If you doubt him, then doubt me as well. Naya clutched her hand and looked at the tribe, her small voice breaking. Please, don't take him from us. He is our protector. The Stone Fang leader's eyes narrowed. He turned back to the human. Protector or fool? His gaze hardened. You carry no tribe. You fight with no banner. Alone you will die. The human stepped closer, his shadow swallowing the firelight. His voice was low, like steel scraping stone. Alone I live, and those I guard live with me. The words hung heavy in the chamber. Suddenly, a wounded raider who had escaped earlier stumbled back into the cave, wild with desperation. He screamed, The human! Kill him now before he grows into a legend.
He will destroy us all.
Before anyone could react, the raider charged toward Celira and Naya with his blade raised. The human moved faster than thought. His axe flashed, cutting the raider down before he could take another step. Blood splattered across the stone and silence returned once more. The Stone Fang warriors stared. Even their leader looked unsettled, not by the violence but by the sheer will in the human's eyes. At last the leader gave a slow nod. You are not like others. You are dangerous, but you are also true. For tonight we leave you in peace, he signaled to his warriors, and one by one they vanished into the tunnels, their torches fading until only shadows remained. Celira sagged with relief, tears glistening in her eyes. She turned to the human. They spared us. Because of you, the human shook his head. No, they spared us because they saw a fight they could not win. Do not mistake it for kindness. The storm outside finally broke. Dawn light trickled faintly through cracks in the cave. The human lifted Celira gently, helping her to her feet. Naya clung to both of them, her little face pale but full of hope. Together they stepped out into the snow. The forest stretched wide and silent, blanketed in white. For the first time since the ambush, the world felt still. Naya looked up at the human. Will you stay with us? Forever? The human paused. His eyes softened just for a moment. No, he said finally. But you will remember. You will grow strong, and one day you will protect others as I have protected you. The child's eyes filled with tears, but also with fire. She nodded slowly. Celira's weak voice broke the silence. Why walk away now? You have given us life. Why not take a place with us? The human looked at the horizon, the pale sun breaking through clouds. Because my road does not end here. There are others crying in the dark, others no one will answer. If I stop, they die. He turned away, his axe strapped across his back. His footsteps were heavy in the snow, but steady. The mother and daughter watched until his figure became only a shadow among the trees. Naya whispered, He is gone. Celira wrapped her arms around her child, her voice soft. No, he is not gone. Men like him never vanish. They become the stories that guide us. They become the fire in our hearts. The wind carried her words through the forest, as if the world itself would remember them. Years later, in songs whispered around campfires, people would speak of that night in the storm. They would speak of the nameless human who fought arrows, rivers, raiders, and tribes to protect a mother and child who were not his own. Some would call him reckless. Others would call him mad. But most would call him what he truly was, a protector, a savior, a legacy carved in blood and snow.